Hi, welcome. In this video, I decided to do a part three to continue to respond to the issue about influence and control, what that really is, by way of trainer Kevin Murdoch, as he continues to talk about how he perceives influence and control by way of his method. Okay, and to talk about the gaps, the problems with that idea of things based on appearances. And so again, this is on the heels of a question I received not too long ago regarding like how can you tell a counterfeit picture from a real in terms of just beyond responses, and how does that actually, what does that look like, how does that come together? So I'm going to play some more of this and see what else he has to say here as I respond to his how he sees this issue.
There are people out there that seem to believe that influence and control can only be reconciled through a choke chain and a leash.
So this is where he gets in this whole thing about his contention with the leash. Okay, choke chain, leash, and actually this is where the whole point of contention was. Everything broke down a while back when I had him on my podcast, and I got into the specifics of a method of the leash. This is where things went off the rails. Okay, for a reason. Understand this is the point of contention, because this is how, again, I talk about influence control being reconciled in a specific way. Okay, a type of conversation I talk about, that making it personal, versus this whole thing about off leash. Again, this is why these trainers keep going. Like, I think I'd say to myself, why keeps talking like this whole thing with off leash, off leash, off leash. I mean, Zach George and all these other trainers, you see them, with these off leash dogs running around, balance trainers. Like, how do you tell? Do you just trust that? Like, that's the thing. Is like, why are these trainers so focused on that? Well, because it's appearance based. Okay, you get in this whole thing about what represents a foundation. Like, what's the kind of litmus test to actually, discern the current state of the relationship. The thing about a parent-child interaction, what reveals the bad attitude of the child? It's when the demand, okay, is put on the child to pick up the toys because you're the parent, versus pick up your toys and here's $100. So the entire dog training world is basically based on this whole premise of here's $100. But the thing that's not connected here is the fact, well, if that's your focus, that's a problem with because you're actually dealing with a relationship problem. Okay, you're actually, the response side of things could look great and the relationship not be good at all, not change, because it can't be just about superficial response that way. See, the entire dog training world is basically based on that. And this goes into even this issue about off leash and appearances. Like, okay, you're people in such a rush for like the show, right? But the Christmas postcard. But how did you get there, right? And is that trustworthy? Well, the answer is no. Like, I mean, because that's not these trainers. That's not their foundation. They're not jumping in the way described with reconciling process properly. So it's this rush to a picture, but that's a problem. Okay, I understand that.
I don't understand why. Because dogs don't use choke chains and leashes on each other.
So, see, that's ridiculous, right? So he makes a statement, well, dogs don't use choke chains and leashes on each other. No, they're dogs, okay? But when things, and this is the thing about, at the social level with dogs, typically, like, we see the deck is being reshuffled, through that interplay, because they're dialed in in terms of that way, in terms of relationship at a pretty deep level. But when things are on display, usually the outcome isn't known. Things can get real intense. But the interplay of what that looks like through the human, okay, to establish, it's different that way in terms of the way that the human interacts with. Okay, the interplay with dogs is very close, personal, tight. That way, the pack, how the pack kind of, the interplay of the pack is different than the human interplay with the dog. So the leash and collars, that's what aligns it properly for the right conversation. This is why I talk about dogs can be kind of, staying outside your pond, so to speak, even though they're in your environment, gaining an incredible amount of control, and you're completely oblivious to it. Because that relational interplay is different that way. So for Murdoch to bring up about, well, the dogs don't have leashes, see, that's just being dismissive, right? Disingenuous, right? But then I talk about outcomes. Okay, why is it that the picture isn't lined up for so many dogs and owners? Like just like writing all that off. Like, well, I don't want to talk about that. I don't want to actually look at that properly to ask more serious questions here. Not just be something wrong with the dogs or whatever. Just that whole kind of writing stuff off. And that's what trainers do. It's like they don't want to go there because that forces them into looking at this differently, looking at taking a step back, asking questions, which needs to happen. So he's just basically saying, well, we don't need to use leashes and lines because you can just trust the picture that I'm generating. It's good enough. Like just trust it. Well, no, I don't trust it. Especially knowing what I know. Give me a break. See, this is the problem. This is where you get in this whole ethical issue here. It's like, what are you doing? Like, you're asking me to go against everything that I know to trust your picture that I know that is problematic. Like, I have the experience. I've trained so many. The thing is, it's just like, this is so ridiculous to me. See, this is where we end up with a problem because then when people say stuff on social media, instead of just being quiet or saying, you know what, I don't know yet about Dale's whole thing here, but I'm just gonna let it ride. I'm just gonna steer clear of that part of it. No, you got to start to try to hammer at, right. You want to try to go. Well, good luck with that. See, this is where all the problem is, right? Not that I have to prove anything per se at all. I'm just responding to stuff, but I just want the public to know. No, there's a major problem here. It's not about proving, but it's about showing. To say, look at the dog training world. Look at the state that it's in. Like a bad picture, right? This is so superficial. All appearances, and these trainers are out there just saying, just trust me. The leash and collar, the dogs. That's so. See, saying stuff like that is ridiculous, right? Because they're skimming the surface, right? They're not dialed in the way I talk about.
To influence and control one another.
That's cool.
So why would we make it such a point?
Because the social dynamic there is different. That's why. Okay, just think about it. We're not dogs that way, right? We're not interacting like that type of proximity type of thing that way. No, it has to align. So we're using certain tools, certain connection points to establish it. Okay, is that the right language? Think about that. It's just like I talked about the difference between being 10 feet away and being up close and personal. Dogs and pack animals, they have a different type of relational interplay there out in the wild. It's different when they come together. It's very personal. Okay, it's very personal. So
to influence and control a dog with a choke chain and a leash and dismiss anybody else who doesn't.
So see, that's the problem, right? And dismiss anybody else that doesn't. No, what I'm talking about is how those core ingredients are reconciled. Right? How's that happening? It's not about just dismissing out of hat. It's specific. I talk about that. So he's actually the one dismissing, right? He's saying, I don't just trust my picture. Like I don't see any, see, and that's the thing about this being hardwired into these trainers, right? That's like trainers coming into your home and this is the thought process of the majority of trainers out there. How can I get this dog to respond? They got the treat bag, right? So I can just sell this picture as is to the dog owner. Like that's it. Not whether, picture can be trusted or like what are you doing? You got a relationship problem here. Like really, you think that's it? See, so fake. It's all about fake and phony. But here you have a level of just leashes and they don't use them in the dog. It's not like actually applying critical thinking here and then adding to that why so many bad outcomes going on. See, there's no critical thinking here to connect dog because to do that, at this point with say certain trainers who've already they put themselves out there on social media this way, do you honestly believe they're going to back out of this? Based on no, they gotta try to find some way to take things out of context. Is what anti-dog trainer tries to twist it and turn it and make it but I'm connecting dots here because I didn't do it because I don't have the problem because I never did this. So I didn't put myself out there like this and took a hold of this type of idea of things and ran with it. And now got 10 miles down the road with it. And now I can't run it back. That's what's happening here. People just think about that. Yeah, there's nothing hidden. I mean, but he's just like writing stuff off because now you got a problem because it's like, well, this is just how I do training. And then it's like, well, where's Dale's off leash dogs? Not the conversation of, hold on here a second. What are you even talking about? Like that's your total focus. So you get all absorbed into that. You can't see anything else. Like you can't even see the right foundation. Like you can't walk this back anyway. So, you can't see the fact that there's a picture problem here with so much going on in the dog training world, including this. How did you just say you want me to trust? No, I'll get Grey Goose on the leash, right? Start to connect with Grey Goose and start to have the right conversation. I'll assess Grey Goose. Right? I'll see what's going on. Not to say Grey Goose could be at a really good level. That's not what I'm saying, but I'm saying the only way. See, that's the problem. These trainers, it's almost like they can't have two thoughts at the same time. A lot of these trainers, like two things can be true at the same time. Like they can't, it's like, that's what they try to do. That's why they take things out of context because they take something and they try, it's like, I'll talk through it, right? I'll say, let's have a conversation here. And see, that's the thing that's the reason I won't talk to trainers like this on debate because they're agenda driven, right? It's like they're trying to twist stuff to take things out of context because their default position is their agenda, right? It's like saying, because they've already put themselves out there. If they suggest otherwise, they're lying. If they put themselves 10 miles down the road here and you can't walk this back. I mean, give me a break. So.
Right. And my philosophy with a leash is leashes are tools of communication, but they're also tools of control. Right? The minute you put on a leash, the minute you put a leash on a dog, you have some level of control over that dog. At least on a physical level where you can attempt to restrict the movement of that dog. But what are you communicating through the leash?
You're still walking, not saying anything yet. Like I know what you're communicating through the leash, right? There is language happening, intent, influence, and control. See, this is the dialed in part of this, right? He hasn't said it.
How are you, Nessie?
Goose
is doing great. James, I don't know if you're still here. Appreciate you joining, man. Paula, I don't know if you're still here.
I'm waiting
Nicole,
for
everybody. Sorry, I was paying attention to what was going on in the store. But
you never
really appreciate everybody joining. And so, my philosophy is this. Listen, getting a dog off leash is not a quick process. Right? There's a bunch of steps that need to be taken to get a dog off leash. Right? It's something that needs to be earned.
So you hear a lot of this like generalized language here, right? Like I'm very specific as in getting a dog off leash, right? Those core ingredients are reconciled to the leash, to the interactions, right? Here it's almost like you ever talk to someone that they're like, happens to me once in a while. You start talking about a subject and then they just trail off somewhere else. I'll do it on my videos, don't get me wrong. But they're intentional with like, they're talking about, oh, Aunt Betty, she had this thing going, and then it's like, oh, is the thing done in the oven yet? And they don't even come back. You have to remind them like finish your thought. Like it's the same thing here. It's just like, then he's going into this generalized kind of language here.
So you have to look for certain things in the mindset of the dog. Is that leader-follower dynamic established to the level where it is ironclad?
See, that's the thing. And see, you'll hear guys out balanced dog trainers saying the same thing. Like what does that mean? like I'm very specific as to what that means, right? The core ingredients too, the leash, right? So, but when the dog trainer is saying he doesn't agree with how the leash is, well, it's not, right? See, so how's he define that? Because it's very, it's very defined, right? It's very specific, right? Which is a good thing. Understand, like this is what I talk about. When you're dialed in and you know what to look for, and you're seeing certain, you see the head turn inwards. There's things to look for that are tangible. That's good, right? That's going to give you the right information. It's like I know, and there's all sorts of different things happening that I show dog owners to look for to say, the relationship is truly changing. right? But we hear these trainers right away because they don't agree with certain things. Well, then it can't reconcile. Understand that there's no way. It's very specific. So
You know without a shadow of a doubt that the dog is following you and everything is on your terms when you are outside.
how do you know that? Like that's the thing. I mean, you could be toll booth as they called it. Certain associations are created where you see with the, say throwing the ball, the dog pay attention. You start throwing the ball, the dog could be going off, just tearing it up. But then when the dog comes back close to you, you try to get the dog in close proximity. That dog isn't going to go there, right? Because it's about control. Who's in control of who? Who's in control of what? Right? You can put stuff. The dog will lead the body language, right? You try to reach out to bring it. See, that's why you tie it in with the long line, right? That's a way to align it properly. Okay, where everything is defined through the relationship properly. So, but that's through, right, align, right, control, influence.
When the leash is on, right? Meaning you really don't even have to use the leash when you go out with your dog. Your dog just knows what the expectations are.
No, see, the expectations you've already signed the contract, they said. You've got a relationship problem. Like going to a dog trainer because you got a relationship problem. You already signed the contract's been signed. See, this is so ridiculous, right? Because it's like, because you have to, certain things are established. Number one, you got a relationship problem. That changes everything. Right? It's this lack of clarity, right, with certain things. And that's what gets people into trouble, because then it's like, oh, well, then you can trust the pitch, or you don't have to use leashes in line. And once you establish certain things, then everything else lines up. Right here, it's just like, oh, well, certain things. And it's just like, but I'm intentional. I go through a sequence. I establish specifics, right? Everything follows a sequence. Here, you just see it all falling apart, right? Because this is how it works. Then we end up with a bad picture, right? I mean, think about it. Or you don't get to where you want to go with the dog in the relationship. You don't achieve a certain result. Well, whose fault is it, right? So I just put it out there because everything here is just social media driven, right? It's like, just trust what I say. So anyway, I'll stop it here. Glad I did a part 3 just to go a little further with this, but it's like understand that there is a process. Okay, there is a standard. Okay, core ingredients: influence and control, reconcile, intentionally, predictable outcomes. Right, I talk about all of it, which is, if you're a dog owner, you want that. Like, you want to know. Like I said, of course, you want to end up with a bad picture, and then no, you want to invest your time wisely, your money wisely. You want to know. The system of training is about knowing. This is a complete original source system. It answers the questions, but the people have trouble with this system. Are they already established, like anti-dog dog trainers that put themselves out there? They put themselves out there in such a way that they can't walk this back, right? They can't respond to what I'm saying. This is why it's helpful to go through these videos. I'm not cheap shotting them at all. This is just information saying, well, here, this, and this. That's what it is, and that's what it should be. For people to understand that there is a process. So my goal is to educate and inform the public. But if you're a dog owner, pay attention, because, if you really care about your dog, you want the right outcome, then, the process matters. I mean, it does. For these trainers, it's just like, it's mostly just about ego and its appearances, and then they have a problem with leashes or whatever, and they try to say, oh, and the dog pat. I mean, I talked about all that. Complete joke.